got some information, I think, on some updates.
Speaking of warrantless actions, we saw the situation in Boston where they apprehended the young man, no warrant. We don't need Miranda rights is the talking points you see on all the major networks. This guy doesn't need to know his rights. He doesn't need to know he can have a lawyer.
Lindsey Graham wants to give him the full Gitmo treatment.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham, the infamous, you don't get a lawyer, you're an enemy combatant, and that's what some people want. They want this guy to be charged as an enemy combatant, but we'll have more on that in just 1 second.
And let me interject here. This is a good example, actually, of why that's all wrong, because as we're going to be talking about, there's a lot of inconsistencies and questions about this, but they're trying this guy in the court of public opinion, and CNN and Fox and the mainstream media is just pounding on this guy as if he's already been tried and found guilty.
Right.
And if Lindsey Graham has his way, this guy is not ever going to get any due process and, be executed quickly or whatever, or taken to Gitmo, and nobody will ever hear from him again.
And that's exactly what they want. And we just saw some of the footage on the screen. We'll go to this article. Shocking footage. Americans ordered out of homes at gunpoint by SWAT teams. And you guys can go ahead and roll that footage again. And David, I want to get your comment on what we're about to see here. Now, these are militarized police invading people's homes, going house to house. And you can see the gentleman right there. I guess that's his house. He's standing outside while the police order him and the rest of his household out. And you can see they are out in mass force to catch one 19-year-old. We didn't see a manhunt this big in Oklahoma City or many of the other false flags. And you can see right here now, this one may have some audio. They're going to tell this guy to come outside of his house and tell him to put his hands up. So let's take a listen. And you can see right there, David, that's where they told the guy to keep his hands up. And you can see this gentleman trying to film from his residence across the street. And no doubt if the police have not got to him yet, they will very soon. And that's what happens.
The only way you know that was police is by the sign on their back. There's absolutely nothing about that. That doesn't look like just some kind of a nightmare martial law. They call it total lockdown. It's martial law. And there are some people that they've got that are clapping and applauding for that. It's just amazing to me that people would clap and applaud for that. But there are other people who are taking pictures of that, think that that's really not normal, okay, and putting it up on the internet. But they are very intimidated. I mean, they're not out there shouting at the police because they've got all the guns, but the sheep who like this are out there applauding that.
Yeah, and I showed the clip last week on the Alex Jones radio show. I'm not sure if we have it tonight, but that's okay if we don't. It was of a police officer literally running down the street, putting his gun in people's faces, like jumping in people's faces. And I'm like, what's with this guy? I mean, that to me was a terrorist.
Right.
These guys clearly weren't the suspect. You got a camera guy who's, probably 20 years older than the oldest suspect. And he's running around, shining his gun in his face.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of cases of police just pulling out guns and shooting people on the side in the subway or something, and once they get their blood up, or accidentally doing a shooting. I mean, you don't point a gun in somebody's face.
No. You're supposed to act as your firearm is loaded at all times.
And not point unless you're intending to shoot. Why would he intend to shoot those people? It's just over the top. But that's the kind of hysteria that we're seeing, and that's the kind of hysteria that they're building.
Yeah, look at that guy right there. Look at that guy aiming his gun right at the cameraman.
Man. It's amazing. All of that for one 19-year-old.
One 19-year-old. And we saw, a similar situation with Chris Dorner out in California, and it's just one or two guys can send a city on lockdown, send the police and military into a frenzy. What would happen, God forbid, if, multiple people were out there committing these kinds of crimes.
Or think about Chicago with all the drug shootings. I mean, 80% of the shootings that are there are about the drug war, right? And the gangs fighting each other. They don't have that kind of police protection there. No. I mean, it's a good thing that they don't. And the interesting thing is they wouldn't be able to stop the gang shootings if they used that kind of police force.
That's a good point, because it's my understanding that the police didn't even catch the gentleman in Boston.
Exactly.
The homeowner called and said, hey, I think there's somebody out in my boat.
Yeah, all of that door-to-door, all that dragging people out of their houses, and they weren't the ones who found him.
Yeah.
It was a citizen who turned him in, yeah.
All right, now.